We've just seen the meeting of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. We've just seen this rapprochement, or we're seeing the rapprochement between India and China. What is your take on this new relationship with your big neighbor to the northeast?
Well, look, of course, the optics have shown that there is a defreeze, which there is. There has been a thaw because Modi has visited China after 7 years. So naturally, it is a major event in international politics, given the fact that international politics is in transition. But there is a lot behind it, a lot behind the timing, a lot behind the process between India and China. There are legacy issues in which, there was a lack of trust because India and China have not been able to really demarcate this very long border that they have. There are differences in perception. These borders were created, of course, by the colonialists, the British. So the Indians see it differently, the Chinese see it differently. And along this border, there have been skirmishes in the past. Sometimes they're low, sometimes they increase. So China uses a kind of politics of pressure, compromise, pressure with India. But India is quite keen to improve relations, but there has been a breakdown of trust. So now, given this major transition, India and China actually started moves to improve their relations in 2024. So it's not an immediate thing that, Trump has sanctions or Modi rushes to China. These meetings have been very carefully prepared. The other thing is India and China, despite their differences, they have set several levels of conflict management. One is a core commanders level meeting on the border, a working mechanism which was set up in 2012. And though Galwan happened, where Indian soldiers were killed and a few Chinese soldiers, even then, in 2023, these core commanders were on the ground there facing each other. They had 23 meetings. So while there was a freeze, this still goes on. But the most important meeting is at a higher level of the national security advisors, that is in India, the NSA, Ajit Doval, and in China, Wang Yi. And in there, before, and I think Mr. Modi was very clear that if he was going to meet President Xi Jinping at the sidelines of Kazan, there has to be some give. And so there was the 22nd round, and only in 2019, and suddenly there was a 23rd round between them in December 2024. And in this, of course, in the press, Modi told the Newsweek, for example, that India-China relations are very significantly, we need to permanently address the issue. The Chinese reacted. But an important date was October 2024, when the Foreign Secretary announced that the Border Patrol had actually restored the pre-2020 rights in sensitive areas on the border. And he referred to the 4Ds, which have been referred again and again, including in the meetings in 2025. That is disengagement, de-escalation, discussion, and de-induction. So overall, also, if you see international relations and border issues, I think this is a good model also.
And this model was going on even before the current turn with all of these sanctions. So the thaw in relations has a longer history than just like the United States now putting pressure on India.
You're right. It has a longer history, but the difference is it has been speeded up greatly. It's been speeded up because it's clear that the US has strategically downgraded India. It's not just Trump's idiosyncrasies and saying one thing one day and the others. There's an entire structural shift, in my opinion, which is happening, in which there are 4 or 5 points if we divert to why the US has strategically downgraded India. One, of course, it's both the personal and the political and the economic. It's holistic. It's not just the personal that Modi has refused to endorse, the Nobel Prize for Trump, or that he has refused to acknowledge Trump's mediation efforts in the India-Pakistan war. It's more than that, where Trump in his cabinet meeting has said, well, India does more trade with us than we do with them. And that's true. India has a major advantage in what it exports to the US and what it receives. And India does have tariffs. It does protect its agriculture sector because 70% of India's poorest farmers depend on dairy and agriculture. So if they open it to the highly subsidized US dairy and agriculture, it'll be a big blow, and there will be a movement against the Prime Minister. So that's one. Second, it's a punishment for BRICS. It's clear now the US sees the BRICS and multipolarity as a threat, and they're seeking to counter it in multiple ways. Third, they believe that they can, damage BRICS with this and pressurize both Russia and China. Maybe give something to China, because they're only negotiating actually with these two countries. The others are sideshows. And also, they don't want India to become another China. After all, the US was responsible by making China a market economy and part of WTO and opening up and transferring manufacturing to this huge scaling up. So they don't want India to do the same. So there are various reasons, and these have come out in various statements.